But the creator of Akka, who was back for this version of it, worked on a game called Polybius in the 2000s, and it was based on that urban legend. So that's a very interesting connectivity point that you found there, Marcus.
See, look at that. That was a guess. Yeah, bring that back. Bring back Polybius, complete with government surveillance. Because, in the 2020s, we're just used to that now. That's just, it's an open secret. So they can actually just come out and be like, yeah, we were doing this back in the 80s. And now you can say it's a feature because it wouldn't be Polybius if it wasn't there, right?
Yeah, now we do it willingly by signing up for social media and recording podcasts.
Yeah, agreeing to license agreements that we don't read.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many things that I owe companies that I hope they never try to collect on because I've signed so many licensing and end user agreements that I just have scroll all the way to the bottom, hit accept, and let me just play my EA Sports game.
We're all going to be human Sentai pads one day.
Oh, God. That was what the South Park episode on that was, yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, that's a fun way to close out this segment. That's the news for this week, Marcus. Thank you for joining me. Before we head out, let the people know where to find you on social media.
You can find me on Twitter at MarcusStewart7, which is the number 7.
Thanks again. We are going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I'm going to be joined by Charles Harte to break down Dragon Quest Treasures. We will be right back. We're getting closer to the end of the year, but we've seen no signs of game releases slowing down. Normally, October and November are the busy months of the year, but we've had some heavy hitters come out this December. One of those games is not only a Nintendo Switch exclusive, but it's out today. Dragon Quest Treasures is a new prequel to Dragon Quest XI, but it's not a turn-based RPG like that game. We're going to dig a bit into Dragon Quest Treasures, and joining me to do just that is Game Informer's Charles Harte. Charles, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing good. Recording day.
Good recording day it is. So you have been playing Dragon Quest Treasures, and for people who may not have kept up with it, full disclosure, I saw this revealed whenever they announced it, and I was like, okay, this seems really cool. This seems like it's kind of like Monster Hunter meets Breath of the Wild meets Dragon Quest and a few other things mixed in. But they put out so much information about what this game is. There's novels of blog posts on the Square Enix website, and I was like, I can't keep up. They did the same thing for Harvestella, to be fair. I just can't keep up with the info dumps that they were doing for this game. So can you give me just an overview of what Dragon Quest Treasures even is?
Yes. So Dragon Quest Treasures is an action RPG. It's got kind of I would classify it as semi-open world. It's got big open chunks of the world you can go visit.
It's almost like Pokemon Legends Arceus in that regard?
Yes, okay. Very, very much like that. And yeah, the main one of the main mechanics is you're hunting for treasure. So you got your party of monsters, you recruit Dragon Quest monsters. They give you visions of where you can find treasure, and then that will upgrade your base and get you access to more abilities and boost your stats and all that stuff. And then you're hunting for ultimate treasure, which is the Dragon Stones.
Okay, so it sounds like it has kind of a defined gameplay loop in that regard, where it's what is the kind of you do this, that lets you do this, that lets you do this. What is the overall loop of kind of how gameplay plays out in Dragon Quest Treasures?
Yeah, so it takes a hot minute to get to the point where you're starting in the consistent gameplay loop. But once you get there, you kind of have a home base. And so I meant we compared it to Legends Arceus in the sense that it has big, open world areas you can explore. Unlike that game, right from the start, you can go to all 5 of the main areas. And it's often encouraged for you to do so because they'll have these what they call treasure forecasts of different monsters you have will have different chances of finding different treasure in different places. So you might have a slime that's really good at finding weapons, but you might have a Draki that's great with armor and statues. And so I don't know how often it is. I think it's a real-time thing because it usually resets whenever I close the game for the night and then open it back up the next day. But it'll be oh, there's a new treasure forecast, and then I can see, okay, if I go to the winter area, I have a higher % chance of finding treasure more often, which is when your monsters are oh, there's treasure nearby, versus if I were to go to the desert right now, it's a low chance. But if I do the winter area and come back, the forecast might change, and now like the desert's going to be perfect for my party.
Okay.
So you're really encouraged to run around all these different areas, and the levels do scale, which is cool. So it's near the first area, I found like at first it was level like 2 and 3 and 4, and then as I started leveling up, they started increasing a little bit. And it's not like I should clarify, it scales relative to where you are. So in the first train station in every area, there'll be like low approachable levels, but the farther you get from there, the higher they'll go, and then that kind of ascends with you as you go. So right now, I'm like level 20. The guys near the starting camp have like capped at level 7, so that's not increasing anymore. But it matches where you are in the game, so you can actually like explore all these places.
All right, and like I guess I'm hearing a lot of monster names, a lot of terminology. I am not a Dragon Quest fan in pretty much any way. Like I've tried a couple of games and I've bounced off them pretty much. Do you think that there's a familiarity with the series that's necessary for this game?
So I'm also not a Dragon Quest fan, not because I dislike it, but because I've just literally never given it much of a shot. I feel like I understand everything going on with this game, and I just haven't played it before, so I think it's fine. It's I think technically a prequel to Dragon Quest 11, but the story it's very straightforward, at least where I am at, of just Eric and me are two twins that want to find treasure. So then they go out and they hunt for treasure. And there's really not much more than that. So they also, I guess I should also say this is in the trailer. They get sucked into a portal very early on. So it's unclear if they're even in the same world that Dragon Quest 11 takes place in. Because these all have talking monsters. I don't know if they talk in Dragon Quest 11, but yes, that's the basic gameplay loop. Is you're exploring, you recruit the monsters, and then you can choose different monsters to get higher chances of getting different treasure and stuff.
So for somebody who is coming at this from not having any Dragon Quest experience, is there like because again, like when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's like Breath of the Wild meets Pokemon meets Monster Hunter. Is there like a kind of a combination that you can say like this is like the perfect brew to make Dragon Quest treasures, like these franchises mixing together?
I think you said Legends Arceus, and now I am thinking of how I feel like that's pretty good just in terms of how varied the environments are and how like, oh, what's that monster over there? I haven't befriended that one yet, so I might want to go chase that one down. I don't want to emphasize, I guess you can go to a lot of areas from the very beginning, but the gameplay loop is you're getting this treasure. Each of your monsters can only hold so much treasure. And once you get that much treasure, if you die, you lose it. So you want to just go back to the base. So your expeditions usually don't last more than like half an hour. So it's not really meant, the focus is not to explore an area. It's to grab your treasure. I've just gotten to a part now where there's like rival gangs that might like show up and try to kill you to take your treasure. But it's more of a risk reward of like, how far can I get with the treasure and then get back? And then eventually you'll get more like fast travel points you can go to and stuff. But I don't know if I've really played a game super like this, but it does almost, I was going to say kind of feels like a dungeon crawler, just in that like traditional risk reward of like, do I go back and heal but then have to make all the way back, or do I press further and see what I can get? But yes, I would say probably Legends Arceus.
Okay, so how does exploring the world feel? Because I know that was one of the main things. It's like, all right, well, you have these monsters on your side, like they can help you, like you can grab a Draki and he'll like let you glide or like bounce off of something else, and like how does it feel to get around the big open areas?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So the one impression I got playing this game, which is very odd, and once I thought it, I haven't been able to shake it. It almost feels like the player model got shrunk down at some point during development, because a lot of stuff I feel like is just a little bit like scaled up from like the size you should normally be able to interact with it. So but and the monsters that you use to traverse, each monster has a forte, which is like its traversal ability. So you mentioned a Draki, this little bat dude that can let you glide. The slimes you can bounce off to jump really high. And that's all fine. My main issue is that the sprint mechanic is locked behind it's a forte, so you have to have a sprinter in your party in order to run around quickly. And it also just gets kind of repetitive, right? Because you're getting your treasure and then you're going back and then you're coming back to the station and it's like the same place you've been to before. And I actually had the experience of like leaving, coming back to the base and then going back to the original place and seeing like the like treasure visions. Your monsters have like visions of treasure of where they are, and you gotta figure out what it is based on like the pictures. It's kind of like the memories in Breath of the Wild, and they're just in the same place. I had like the same 3 in the same spot when I came back one time, so it feels a little weird. There's also I haven't even mentioned the combat, which is, a main portion of this. It's an action RPG. I think I would like this game a lot more if I enjoyed the combat more, because it's such a large portion of the gameplay. Mm-hmm. Where it's mainly your monsters attack kind of passively. They just do their abilities. And then you have a dagger that you can attack with. And then there's also like a dodge roll button. And other than that, there's not a whole lot of like strategy that really goes into it. You also have a slingshot with all these pellets you can load into it, but I found aiming that is kind of awkward. And most of the time, it's if you're just a high enough level, you just kind of sweep through them. And if you're not high enough level, you just kind of get plowed over. I guess that's how all our RPGs work. But something about the combat for me just doesn't really work, and I think it makes exploring kind of clunky, because I can't go to every area right off the bat, both because I want to get my treasure back and also because there's just going to be harder and harder fights.
So it sounds like you're not loving this game so far. I mean, we should be clear that this is not like a review. Like, you are not finished with the game yet, but this is just kind of like an in-progress impression. Since the game is out today, I wanted to have you on this podcast to talk about it. But like, overall, how are you feeling about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a game. So I mentioned that it takes a while to get going. And I think my thought at first was like, okay, RPGs are like this. I'm just going to get through this tutorial, and then eventually like my abilities will open up enough. And I've made it like 10 hours into this game at this point. And I feel like I'm still waiting for my things to open up to feel like I really have control over what's going on. I think if you really like Dragon Quest monsters and characters, I think you'll get a little bit more enjoyment out of it than I am, because it is like charming. I'm sure it would be nostalgic for some people, but right now I'm finding it kind of tedious, and I'm hoping that maybe there's a thing on the horizon that's going to actually switch the game around for me, and my opinion's going to change. But yeah, at the moment I'm not crazy about it, but I do think there is an audience for it. I also think it might do a little better for like a younger audience. I do think it's kind of skewed that way, but at the same time, a lot of the gameplay is so repetitive. Like, I don't know if like if I was a kid, I feel like I would lose my patience with it fairly quickly. But
now,
yeah,
isn't there some sort of like base mechanic as well?
Yes, but it's not. I mean, so you have a base and you're expanding the base, but for where I'm at, all that really amounts to is like going out in the world and then doing a side quest to get like a vendor to be like, oh, now I can craft pellets, or now this person is going to sell me materials I can use to recruit more monsters. And I think there's other stuff I haven't gotten to yet, but it's more about your gang, which is what they're calling like your group of monsters that you level up over time by getting treasure. You can pick like certain treasure to display that will like appreciate in value over time to bring your gang's like treasure hoard gold value up, which is fun. Also, I should mention the treasures themselves. They're all like cute little models of things. Again, I'm not super familiar with Dragon Quest, but I can tell like these are like iconic monsters and iconic like characters. And I think that would definitely be a nice thing of, if you're familiar with the Dragon Quest series, the act of receiving one of these treasures and being like, oh my gosh, that's, blah, blah from Dragon Quest 9. That's so cool. I think that would definitely be enjoyable. And then you could put them up on a pedestal.
So it doesn't sound like it's kind of like the Super Smash Brothers style of like trophy collection. Like, is there any kind of like, all right, there's like some backstory to this treasure? Like, if you select it on your shelf or anything, or is it just like, oh, there's a thing that I can look at?
I haven't. I think they do have little descriptions, but I haven't really looked at it. I would say it's not unlike a Smash Bros. Treasure collecting thing. They just don't have names. So like. The one I'm thinking of where I can just tell like, oh, this is definitely a Dragon Quest character. Their name is like Spoiled Aristocrat or something like that, where it would be like a funny nod to them if you've played the game, but it doesn't outright name them.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I think that's a pretty decent look at Dragon Quest treasures. You are still plowing through this thing. You're going to have your review up on GameInformer.com at some point in the coming week, I would imagine. But yeah, I'm sorry you're not loving it so far, but I hope it turns around and gets a lot better in the kind of the back half of this experience. But any closing thoughts before we get you out of here?
No, I think my hope with Dragon Quest Treasures, I think playing it and I'll keep this in mind with my review. I don't think it's for me. But I don't think that means that it won't find its audience, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't think it's a game I would recommend to everyone, but I am hoping that when it comes out, there's going to be a group of people that are like, oh, we love this game. This is exactly what we wanted from a Dragon Quest spinoff. And I'm excited to see what other people think when it comes out.
All right. Again, you can keep your eyes on GameInformer.com to see Charles's full review in the coming weeks or so. Dragon Quest Treasures is out today exclusively on Nintendo Switch, if this sounds like it interests you. Charles, where can people find you on social media?
I am on Twitter at ChuckDuck365.
We are going to take one final break of this episode, and when we get back, we'll be reacting to the news coming out of the Game Awards. We will be right back. It is another episode where we don't have definitive ranking or eShop Gem of the Week. What we do have, however, is some stuff to chat about coming out of the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley's annual award show went down in Los Angeles just yesterday, and we got a ton of big reveals, and a couple of those came from Nintendo. Joining me to recap some of the big Nintendo-based talking points is Wesley LeBlanc. Wesley, how are you doing this fine Friday?
Hello, I'm doing great because I actually had a really great time watching the Game Awards last night. I think it was the best show, probably the best gaming show I've seen in a minute.
Yeah, we're mostly here to talk about kind of like the Nintendo stuff, but I do want to get your thoughts overall on the show. Like I think that personally, it was one of the better Game Awards, maybe the best Game Awards. And I was at the one last year, and it was awesome to be there in person. I wish I could have been there this year because it seemed like there was some really cool stuff, and like this was like the first year that it seems like everybody was kind of back, like last year there was a lot of like, it was half capacity. There weren't a lot of like international developers that traveled. This year, we had Hidetaka Miyazaki from Software, who lives in Japan. A lot of other developers traveling from all over the world, it seemed. And
Kojima was there.
Yeah, Kojima was there, correct. So yeah, there was a lot of international presence, which was not really the case last year, unfortunately. But it seems like the Game Awards are back in full force now. So what were your overall opinions of the Game Awards show?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a mix that I kept my expectations in check, kind of because Jeff kind of put us all in check with the show, but like he surpassed my expectations with this show. I thought there's always more care that we put towards the actual awards segment, but this is half awards, half announcements at this point, and I don't think we're going to get anything different ever.
I would say it's more than half.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
It's like
70-30
maybe.
Yeah, and I mean that's the formula he's sticking with. So it's tough. We can make the same complaints, but that's his show now. But I thought I was excited about the awards. There were a lot of surprises, some great speeches, a lot of awesome announcements, like some that I never ever would have guessed. Like Ghostfire or Ghost Story Games is Ken Levine's new game, Judas. Cannot believe that appeared there. Never would have. I didn't even know that they had a game. And I mean, I knew they had a game in development, but that studio's gone through some things. But yeah, it was just announcement after announcement that really surprised me. Hades 2, Death Stranding 2, a lot of stuff and another Bayonetta game coming out next year, which we'll talk about. Like, just lots of surprises, and I think that's what he's going for, and he did really well this year.
And I guess we should talk about Hades 2 a little bit, because Hades 1 is on Switch, and I'd be very shocked if Hades 2 didn't eventually come to Switch or whatever console Nintendo is running at the time of Hades 2 launches. But like, I mean, that game looks super good. It's starring a new protagonist. I forget what her name is. It's not like an actual name. It's like I forget what like they refer to her as, but like it's not like her actual name. It's like kind of like a moniker that she goes by. But I mean, if you like Hades and think that like that's one of the best games on the Switch, then boy, do I have good news for you, because it's entering early access next year, which is only on PC, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I would be extremely shocked if it didn't go multi-platform, given the success Hades 1 had on all the consoles under the sun.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a much faster turnaround because they did the early access thing with Hades, and they spent, that was announced at the Game Awards, the Hades early access, and I think they spent about 3 years before launching into 1.0. So they gathered a ton of feedback and player input, and that's why you get like Hades, which is one of the best games released that year. But I think they've got a really solid foundation, so I feel like this early access will be shorter because they already kind of know what they're doing with this franchise. And yeah, it'd be a huge miss for it to not come to Switch, or depending on how long this game's in development, whatever platform Nintendo might have at the time.
Yeah, I am excited for that. Like, and I didn't even play Hades as much as everybody else seemed to. Like, I put a few hours into it, and I was like, oh, I love this. And then I just got distracted by other things, which is the story of this entire podcast.
Yeah.
But
it looks
that
great,
was one
though.
of the biggest surprises. It's also Supergiant's first sequel, because they went from Bastion to Transistor, which Transistor felt kind of like a spiritual successor to Bastion, but it was not a direct sequel. Then something completely different with Pyre, which was kind of like a NBA Jam inspired RPG, which was kind of wild. And then they did Hades, and obviously Hades has been their biggest success, even though Bastion was also a huge success in its own right. But Hades, I feel like, took everything to a next level. So it makes sense that they would want to follow that up as their first sequel. But I don't think anybody was expecting that to show up. When they said Supergiant, I was like, all right, cool. I've always wondered, like, what's going to be next from this company after the wild success that Hades had. Yeah. And lo and behold, it's another Hades.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that'd be a sequel to Hades. When I saw Supergiant, even at first, because the art style is pretty similar, but the characters were all very different looking, I was like, oh, this is interesting. What is this? And then it wasn't until like they actually showed gameplay that I was like, oh my God, this is Hades 2. Wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh, good. They're going back to like kind of Greek mythology again. All right, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, okay. The gameplay's coming up. All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is Hades.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one that I was very shocked by, and I'm very much looking forward to. It makes me want to go play Hades again. That's just exactly the effect that Hollow Knight Silksong showing up at the Summer Game Fest had when I was out there covering that. It was like, oh, all right, yeah, I'm going to fire up Hollow Knight on my flight back to Minnesota.
Nice,
so
yeah.
That's kind of what I'm feeling with Hades.
Yeah, same. I think I might pick it up on PlayStation now, because I have played it on Switch, but I kind of want to get some trophies for it, and I think it's on sale because of the Game Awards.
All right, all these platforms. By the way, that's something we should touch on, is like, if you are listening to this like relatively recent after it comes out, like the weekend of this episode hitting, there's a pretty good sale happening with, it's just like, I think it's called like critically acclaimed partners, where it's just like all these third-party developers have just deep discounts on really every platform, but the critically acclaimed partners is specific to the eShop on Switch. So if any of these games that like have come out in recent years that you just kind of missed, that you keep hearing about, check the eShop, because there's actually a pretty decent chance that it's on sale right now.
Yeah,
so that's a very good call out, Wesley. Let's get into the two, I guess, first-party Nintendo announcements here. And I guess Bayonetta is not really a first-party Nintendo, but it's an exclusive Nintendo announcement. And that is Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon. And this is maybe as unexpected of an announcement as we got, in terms of like, oh, this is not at all what I expected. basically it's a prequel to the Bayonetta series, and it's not the traditional Bayonetta gameplay. It's like a storybook inspired adventure with like kind of like it looks like exploration gameplay, and I don't know what really to make of it. So you take control of Bayonetta before she's Bayonetta. She's just known as Cereza, and she's taking on an apprenticeship as a young witch.
Mhm.
And like it has a storybook art style, and it's just not at all like what I would think if they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a Bayonetta origin story.
Yeah, it's I haven't played Bayonetta 3 yet, but I saw a lot of people making jokes that like you can play a demo of this Origins game in Bayonetta 3.
You can.
Is that the case? Like there's
Yeah, so if you go into Bayonetta 3 and you go to Rodin's shop, The Gates of Hell, you can buy the old picture book, and then if you unlock it with 3 keys, there's actually a playable teaser for Bayonetta Origins.
Oh, that's really cool. But you didn't know at the time that that's what that was.
I don't think so. No, I mean, I don't even know if that's a new. I haven't played Bayonetta 3, admittedly, so
okay.
I don't know. Like Blake might know, but who knows? Aside from Blake, but yeah, this is a game that I was very surprised by, because it was like, all right, here comes Bayonetta. I thought it was going to be DLC for Bayonetta 3, but no, it's an all new game, and it comes out on March 17th, so we don't even have that long to wait.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be like a full price $60 package, or if this is like a couple hours type thing.
It seems like it's got to be smaller scale. Like this definitely doesn't feel like the budget that a Bayonetta 3 has. Like if I had to guess, I mean, let me bring it up here. I would have to guess that it's going to be like a $40. Oh no, it is $60 according to the eShop. Yeah, so maybe it's a longer game than we're giving it credit for, but yeah, according to the eShop currently, Bayonetta Origins Cereza and the Lost Demon is $60, and again comes out March 17th.
That is interesting, because I didn't see any combat in it, and it didn't look like a platformer either. It kind of just looked like a storybook, which
yeah,
I mean, I don't want to say like that's not deserving of $60. I'm sure they've worked really hard on it, but I'm excited I'm interested in seeing how this is a full game.
So here's the I'm looking at the eShop more now, and here's like some description of the gameplay. So it says Cereza and Cheshire, who is one of the demons one of the summons from Bayonetta, coordinate their effort to fight fairies and solve puzzles. Use the left Joy-Con controller to move Cereza and bind enemies with her magic. With the right Joy-Con controller, move Cheshire to slash and chomp foes. So almost like brothers.
Or Astral Chain is what it's making me think of.
Oh, that's probably
Another
a better
Platinum
analog,
game.
given that it's Platinum, yeah. But
interesting.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
cool.
So it sounds like they're taking some chances with the franchise, which is good. I'm assuming the voice actor of Bayonetta is going to be not Helena Taylor.
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption.
Yeah, at this point, I think that she might be not coming back in that role, unfortunately for her.
Yeah.
But that's not the only Nintendo announcement that we got last night. We got a trailer for Fire Emblem Engage that showed off some DLC. So there will be 4 waves of DLC for Fire Emblem Engage, which that game, by the way, sneaking up on us, coming out January 20th, which is so weird. I still don't understand fully what this game is, I don't think.
I was talking with a buddy last night. It is the next Fire Emblem game, like mainline, but it doesn't feel like it. And I don't know if that's because of maybe I'm just not vibing as much with the presentation so far, especially compared to Three Houses, or it might just be the marketing going on, but I don't know. I'm not getting the sense that this is like the Fire Emblem sequel to Three Houses. Not, direct, but this is the next mainline Fire Emblem.
Yeah, it feels like less monumental than a mainline. It almost feels like the hype levels, maybe we're insulated in an echo chamber here, but like the hype levels feel closer to something like Fire Emblem Warriors, where it's like, oh, okay, here's another adventure in this universe, but it's not like the next mainline one. It's like how like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had all this hype, but maybe Legends Arceus didn't, except for like the mainline fans. And then of course, Legends Arceus ended up being probably the better game.
Yeah,
but
I think for me, a lot of it, and we're about to dive into more of this, is like the announcements for this game so far have been like, hey, here's some past characters from Fire Emblem games you love that are going to be in this. So it kind of has like a weird spin-off, like all your
like
favorite
Fire Emblem
characters
Warriors,
are here.
where it's like a compilation, like kind of like Hyrule Warriors was like, all right, this is not an actual Zelda game, but it's like a greatest hits of all the characters that you love, you know and love. But yeah, so like Fire Emblem Engage, you have emblems that you can use to summon heroes to kind of fight alongside you, and like they boost your stats and they assist you in combat. But they revealed that these waves of DLC are going to add additional emblems for you to summon, and they're going to include characters from past games. So the first wave that they showed off during the Game Awards will add Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude, geez, I can't talk, from Three Houses as one of the in-game emblems, and then Tiki from Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light as another emblem. And that's the only wave they've announced so far, but they've said that all 4 waves of that DLC will hit before the end of 2023, and then they'll all be included in the Fire Emblem Engage expansion pass. So yeah, I don't really know what to make. Like, I don't even know like how the combat works in this. Is it like traditional Fire Emblem, like turn-based strategy?
Yeah, that's from the videos I've seen. It does seem that way. Like it does seem like a traditional Fire Emblem game, in terms of combat and even visuals. I think it's a very pretty looking Fire Emblem game. But yeah, it is a Fire Emblem game. Like it's a mainline Fire Emblem game from everything I've seen, watched, and read of it. But the feel isn't there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hopefully like once the holiday mess that we are just about to emerge from is behind us completely, we'll start getting a little bit more hype for like what's to come in 2023. Those lists are coming. Like,
Yeah,
we're gonna do that episode on this podcast. Probably the first Friday of 2023 is going to be let's look ahead at everything that we know is coming out this year. And every website you go on is going to have the most anticipated of the year stacked up on their site. So hopefully that's when kind of the hype engines will start revving. Maybe Nintendo's playing it safe and like being like, all right, well, let's let all of the hype kind of exhaust itself for this holiday season. Once that's gone, we'll start telling you all about this Fire Emblem Engage. I would not be surprised if early January we get like a Fire Emblem Engage focused direct.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to like give us like, here's everything you need to know about this game. And I think they'd be smart to do that. But again, it's Nintendo, and we will never be able to estimate or guess what they're going to do. So that is the Nintendo relevant announcements that we got during the Game Awards. And to be honest, like I understand why the kind of the ratio of announcements to awards is what it is. Because if it was just like a straight award show, I probably wouldn't tune in. I'd probably be like, all right, I'll read like the recap after the fact.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have the production values without. If it was just awards, he would not be securing the money he's able to secure that puts on this, frankly, astounding show for a person to create and produce.
Yeah, and I know that some of those reveals are probably pretty big revenue drivers, whether it's like people paying to be on the show or whether it's just the number of eyes. Like getting the new From Software game, getting the new Kojima Productions game, like getting the reveal of Ghost Story Games title, like those are all huge gets. And like,
yeah,
that's going to make all those people come back again next year because they know what to expect. They know that they're going to get some of the biggest games from the biggest creators revealed or at least shown for the first time. And as is the case for like Jedi Survivor, we got like our first real trailer of that game. So it's like so much goodwill has been built up by Jeff Keighley at this point, especially when you consider how far he's come. Like he was in charge of like the Spike TV Video Game Awards, like way
back where Last
in the
of Us
day.
got announced, if I remember correctly.
That was such like a transparent, like this just isn't a well put together show.
Yeah.
And he has come so far. Now the quality he's brought to this point has rivaled pretty much any award show at this point, I would say. And the entertainment value is there with all the reveals, and that's how he gets those people to tune in. So good on him. So those are the reveals that Nintendo had, but Nintendo also took home a pretty good haul of awards.
Yeah.
Which, they had kind of a sneaky good year, I think. And we'll talk more about that in a future episode when we do like the best of 2022. But here's what Nintendo took home at the Game Awards this week. And that is Kirby and the Forgotten Land won Best Family Game. So good for that. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope won Best Simulation / Strategy Game, which I don't know why those two are lumped in the same category, but it won. Splatoon 3 won Best Multiplayer Game. Which
I think this is the biggest surprise for Nintendo for me.
I would agree.
Did not have my money based on what people say about Splatoon 3 and the other games in that category. I would not have guessed Splatoon 3 at all.
Yeah, for sure. And then The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom won most anticipated game, which, yeah, sure.
What is that, like it's like third time doing that?
Probably somewhere along those lines. I think it won. I did win last year, right?
It was either that or Elden Ring, but it's definitely won before.
Yeah. And then Bayonetta 3 won Best Action Game. And I know some people were disappointed that like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 didn't win Game of the Year, but that was going to be an uphill battle against Elden Ring and God of War, no matter which game like Nintendo sent out for that.
Yeah, agreed.
But,
there was, I mean, it is what it is, but like I don't think Xenoblade really had a chance at all in that.
No, unfortunately not. And then I know that like the Sonic community was very, very upset they did not win like the Viewers' Choice Award. There was a huge campaign going on within that community, and Sonic Frontiers lost to Genshin Impact. And Jeff Keighley did acknowledge that there were some bot activity in the Viewers' Choice vote, which I don't know. Maybe the Sonic community is not only passionate but also tech savvy. Because Possibly. It was winning some of those rounds pretty handily, and like you said, he removed all the bot votes, so maybe that was why it didn't win.
Yeah, that was it was pretty funny to hear him mention that like on camera.
Yeah. But anything else you want to talk about with the Game Awards before we wrap up here, Wes?
No, I don't think so. The new clip of Mario was nice, the Mario movie.
Oh, that's right, we did get that.
I'm most fascinated with that movie. Well, one, I just want to point out the score was amazing. Like the music is going to be so good in this movie. And I love seeing how they are explaining things that are very normal to us playing Mario, like warp pipes and the clear tubes and the platforming and stuff. And I like seeing that Mario, I like seeing him struggle to go through the clear, I don't know, pipe or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be one of the more fun aspects of this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that clip made me feel a little bit more confident in Chris Pratt's voice acting, because like so far we've only heard like, aside from the woohoo when he's doing the Mario Kart thing in the second trailer, like we haven't really heard him say any kind of like emotion, like it's just been like, Mushroom Kingdom, here we come. And it's like, all right, well, I guess that's what we're going to get. It's just kind of like a monotone Mario. Yeah. And but he had a little bit more emotion in this one.
Yeah. And he's definitely doing a voice. Like I have since turned on, like, I was like, oh, this is basically just Chris Pratt, but like he's definitely doing a voice. Whether you like it or don't like it is something else, but like he's not just phoning in with his voice. So that's going to be I'm more excited to see how it plays in full scenes, but I'm more open to it now.
And as Kyle pointed out in last week's show when we were talking about the second Mario movie trailer, he's actually a very good voice actor. Like the Lego movie, he did a great performance. Or was that last week? I don't know. Again, all the times blend together at this point in our lives. But yeah, I think it was last week. And he's actually a very good voice actor when it comes to like these types of roles. So I have faith that it will be a good performance. I think it's just different from what everybody's expecting because we're so used. We have 25 years of Charles Martinet voicing him, so it's very tough to disassociate or decouple Mario from that voice.
Yeah, I mean that is Mario's voice. There's not even been really other instances, so I think that's the most difficult part. There's with Batman, Kevin Conroy is a lot of people's Batman, but we've heard so many different iterations of Batman that when there's a new one, you're like, okay, I'm open to this. With Mario, it has just been Charles pretty much. So
aside from like the early like movies and TV shows that we had, like Bob Hoskins and Captain Lou Albano, but
so the shell shock is just it's a lot more.
Which, by the way, that was a very touching trailer from Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They revealed that Kevin Conroy had recorded voiceover for that game, and God, they delivered he delivered the line so perfectly.
It was so good. My heart, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for that game. It's gonna hurt.
Yeah, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. We didn't really touch on that in this show, but just a legend a few weeks ago. And I'm excited to hear him in the Suicide Squad game one last time, theoretically. But yeah, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up there, Wes. Thanks so much for joining me for this final segment of this kind of jam-packed episode.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you so much to everyone for listening. As always, I'd appreciate if you throw All Things Nintendo a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button. And then, of course, get any questions or comments in at allthingsnintendo@GameInformer.com. Or you can hit me up on my personal Twitter or Instagram at Brian P. Shea. And then you can always join us on the Game Informer Community Discord, which is a perk for subscribing to our Twitch channel, even just for 1 month. Wesley, tell everyone where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me at GameInformer.com, of course, or putting up some new gameplay todays on the Game Informer YouTube channel. And on Twitter, you can find me at LeBlancWes.
That's our show for this week. Thank you again for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.